Hello again, and welcome to this podcast in this series of mini podcasts that Lorna and I are doing. This is Lorna Rutter, my colleague, and we're main subjects within these mini podcasts are job seeking. So this is really aimed at people who are looking for work, helping you to find that ideal role in as quick a time as possible. And the subject we're going to discuss in this mini podcast, by the way, mini podcasts, we're going to try and get these all into about 15 minutes. So big subjects all within 15 minutes, aren't they, Lorna? We're going to talk about social media today, aren't we?
We are indeed, yes.
Yeah, so looking at social media, how to use social media to really optimize your job search and, in fact, to go on the offensive, if you like, and really find opportunities for you rather than sitting and waiting for them to come to you. So, Lorna, why don't you kick off on one of the subject areas we thought about was the importance of kind of social media detoxing. Yeah, maybe you could explain for us what that means.
Absolutely. I think there's lots that you can do with social media to help yourself find a job and not just sit back, like you say, and wait. But I think the starting point is to actually do a social media detox. So take a look at your social media accounts that you use, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever that may be, what your chosen ones are, and actually have a look at the posts that you've been putting out there historically and make sure that you feel that those posts are going to represent you to a potential employer in the best light. That's assuming that your profiles are available for anyone to look at. You might have quite good security settings and your social media account.
So you can change the settings, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's worth looking at the private settings. I mean, most of us in reality will have things that we've put on that may be humorous, that might not be humorous to everybody. Hopefully there's nothing offensive. But if there's any likelihood that there's a possibility somebody might find something that you've posted or written offensive, if you're looking for a job, or even if you're in a job at the moment, my recommendation would be take those down, particularly if they're offensive, just take them down anyway. But if they are likely to be seen as such by a potential employer, then they are best removed. It's quite surprising the amount of due diligence some of the better employers will do to check out people that they're employing. And in fact, Lorna, do you remember several years ago now, we did actually have somebody have a job offer rescinded, didn't they? Because of something that a potential employer had seen on somebody's Facebook. Now, you could argue, I mean, it wasn't horrendously offensive, to be honest, but I mean, clearly that the employer thought that particular post didn't align to their values. So it is important to look through that. So anyway, social media detox, pretty self-explanatory. Have a look through everything and then kind of figure out, would you want your employer to look at that? So if the answer is no, get rid of it.
In a nutshell, that's it. I think that you're completely right, Nigel. You don't want the posts might mean something to you, but actually a silly post could affect whether you get offered a job or offered an interview or not. So I think it's definitely wise just to do a quick check and make sure you're comfortable with what you're putting out there on the internet. So definitely.
No, very true. I mean, obviously this has to be balanced as well. I mean, humour's great, by the way. You're not suggesting one shouldn't have humorous things on your social media. And in fact, for those of us that sometimes post memes, then I mean they can provide a great deal of amusement. And in fact, Lorna and I have recently launched a new Facebook page which is called Top Tips for Job Seekers. You can find that on Facebook, and we are posting memes on there. They're just things which are amusing, which are related to job seeking.
Certainly make us chuckle, don't they?
Well, that's chuckle. Yeah, it might not make everybody, but who cares? They're not offensive.
It's worth noting, Nigel, also that it is questioned whether employers should look at someone's personal social media accounts as part of their due diligence process when going through the hiring process. But companies do it, so it's best to have everything in check and lined up and representing yourself in the best way to avoid anything that could be questioned at a later date in a recruitment process.
No, I mean we're not here to really discuss the philosophy or morality of employers checking up on people, but it is a fact of life that it happens. So anyway, so moving on, as I say, we're trying to get these big topics into 15 minutes. So moving on to the next stage, then friends and family through Facebook. This is an often overlooked thing, isn't it, Lorna? So talk us through what people can be doing, looking at finding opportunities through friends and family and extended friends and family networks.
Absolutely. I think taking a look at who do you know, who's your family, where do they work, who do they know, in what sectors do they work in, and can anybody in your friends and family network refer you to somebody that they may know that could help you find a job? They may be hiring themselves, or they may know people that they can refer you to. So it's absolutely essential that you kind of cast your net quite wide and let as many people know as possible that you are searching for a new job and what type of job you're looking for, because it might be that you're not aware that your cousin's best friends with someone that wants to hire a social media person, for example. So the more you talk to people, the more that you use your network to express your interest in the type of job you're looking for, then there's a
and I mean, obviously this does to some extent depend on the level of the person that's looking, and also as in seniority, but also perhaps the amount of confidentiality there is about it. If you want to keep the fact that you're looking, you want to keep that sort of confidential, then perhaps you don't want the whole of your friends and family to know.
Slightly different. If you're out of work, then you might.
Yes, exactly. So if you're out of work, or you are perhaps somebody at the early stage of your career, then why not? I think in one of the podcasts I did a podcast with Jeff Hayden, and he said, somebody that knows somebody else that can help you, or words to that effect, he said. And I think it's hugely true.
And it's
you
not
really
just about,
can leverage
it's even that they might know someone that can help you refine your CV, or proofread it, or something along the way to help you on your job search journey. So there's quite a lot that sharing this with your friends and family and sort of tapping into that network can really help and boost you and keep your morale up as well, because searching for a job can be quite tiresome, and you have to be quite resilient. So
yes, and good people like to help other people. So most people in life, if they're reasonable people, will know that there have been many points in their lives when they've been helped by others, sometimes friends, sometimes families. So yeah, it's a really good point. Don't overlook that opportunity, particularly if you're earlier in your career. So the next piece, which is a really big topic, so we're going to try and get a reasonable number of aspects of it covered in 5 minutes. Looking at LinkedIn really as a platform. Now, there are some similar platforms for any listeners who are in Germany, for example. There's a platform there called Zing, which is very similar. I think there are other ones in other parts of the world, but the predominant one for this type of activity really is LinkedIn, isn't it? And so I suppose, Lorna, we can think about some to get out in the next 4 or 5 minutes. What are the key things, should we say, about LinkedIn and using that for your job search?
I think first and foremost, just making sure that your LinkedIn profile highlights you in your best light and your skills and achievements, so that if any employer comes across your profile, then they've got all the key information that they need in order to assess whether they want to make contact with you. But equally, I think you can use LinkedIn in a more proactive way to identify companies and people that you'd like to work for. So rather than just using it as a job search tool and searching for jobs on LinkedIn, you can actually proactively look up companies, do your research, see if they're companies that you potentially would like to work for, and then once you've decided that, have a look to see who could be, I think we've called them in the past decision influencers. So people within those companies who might be able to help you connect with people that could be hiring within those companies, or people just to submit your CV to start the process and start engaging with that company to potentially, down the line get an interview for a job that may or may not be live at the moment. So
yeah, we know somebody recently that we helped, didn't we?
Yes.
That she found a job by approaching a senior person within the company and saying, this is what my profile is, I'm really interested in your company. And they came back and said, well, we don't have a role at the moment, but we're that interested in your profile that we'd like to have a discussion with you. And she ended up getting a job. And it takes a lot of work and sometimes a bit of guts to do it this way.
And I think your
but
approach
it is
has
a
to be
very,
quite
very,
refined. It's not. I
yes.
think you have to think about how you're wording things and how you're, the people that you're approaching, because you might not necessarily be approaching the right people to start those conversations. So it does take research and it does take time, but it's certainly
and a little bit of humility as well, doesn't it? It is about demonstrating to somebody that you're interested in them and their company, and you'd like to engage with a conversation. So I think, thinking about it and perhaps summarising some of what you just said there, Lorna, I think there's fundamentally three things with LinkedIn. The first is, rather like your CV, is to make sure it's well presented and it's accurate and it's honest. So Lorna's absolutely right. You need to make sure that if somebody comes to look at your profile, it explains who you are. If you're a job seeker, it's a really, really important thing. And by the way, for those people who aren't aware, a lot of companies now are employing what they call talent acquisition, and talent acquisition spend a huge amount of their time looking at LinkedIn profiles, as do recruiters as well. So you need to make sure that that's a marketing tool for you, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth noting that LinkedIn does have a facility to mark your account as open to work. So your profile
Yes.
picture will have I think it's green at the moment, and a little slogan that says open to
Yeah,
work.
and I think that's. I actually think a quick comment on that. Actually, you see some stuff online about people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't put that because it says you're desperate." That's absolute rubbish, folks.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
it really is. There are some great people I've come across that have put that on there. When I've been looking for people, then if I see that, I think, "Oh, great, they're going to be more receptive to my approach."
And engage in a
So it's not
conversation.
desperate at all. It's a very sensible thing to do. If you're open to work and there's no harm, it's obviously not sensible to put that on there if your employer doesn't know you're looking for a job. But it's really good point, Lorna. Thank you for reminding us on that one. So I think three fundamental things. One, make sure that your profile is really, really clear what it's about and it's honest. And the second thing is there's loads of jobs advertised on LinkedIn. So look at those, see which ones are appropriate. And then that third piece, I think, has huge potential for people, which Lorna's just described, which is engaging with individuals within companies that might be potential employers for you. And even if they don't have a role, you're starting to network, build your network, and you never know where those opportunities are going to go, do you? So yeah, I think there's huge opportunity. Anything else on LinkedIn we should talk about? I mean, it's a huge subject, isn't it? We could talk about it for hours, but those are probably the key things.
I think
aren't
they are the key things, Nigel. If you are applying for jobs or you do send a connection request or an in-mail on LinkedIn, then don't just sit there and wait. Follow up. Make sure that you are following your own process. And if you submit your CV and you haven't heard back in a week, make sure you follow up. Make sure that you are proactive in your activities to find a job, and don't just sit back and wait for someone to come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think you touched on it about your morale. It's really, really good for your morale to have a process which you can follow. And LinkedIn, and for that matter, what we were talking about with Facebook, all of these activities give you something that you can get on with rather than, we talked on one of these other podcasts about using recruiters, and it's a hugely important aspect of your job search. But you can really go proactive with social media. Start writing articles if you feel able to raise your profile. Get people interested in you. Let them see what
you
you're
can follow
interested.
hashtags that will then send posts to you. There's hashtags related to jobs hiring and things like that. So there is quite a lot you can do using social media in order to find out information about jobs that are available, but also things that you can do yourself to make the process a bit more interesting.
And there's also some really good learning and development opportunities on LinkedIn. It's not nearly as good as the stuff Lorna and I do, but it's there. It all adds to it. But anyway, that's almost coming up to our 15 minutes, and we have achieved it. Big subject in 15 minutes. Again, Lorna, hope that those of you that are listening have enjoyed this. We're going to be doing lots more on information for job seekers. So top tips for job seekers is on Facebook now. So if you want to go there, you'll find all sorts of other useful information. And good luck in your job search, and have a great day.
Have a great day.